Oh, I think I got a bit of heat stroke. What is it? Woke up about an hour ago. Couldn't get back to sleep. I'm near back to sleep now. But I had to get this off my chest. I just had to. Cops get into my head. Well, they don't, but they don't get in my head. They don't live rent free in my head, but their bullshit does. Why? Because it affects us all the time. It's fucking. So I wrote a letter into the Advocate. Grandiose narcissistic police disorder. Trigger warning. If you don't like what I'm about to say, you would have been considered a Nazi sympathiser at the Nuremberg trials. I was having a conversation with the officer at the summer festival in Burnley yesterday regarding forced compliance. Now, I kept it civil, hoping to appeal to his common sense of humanitarianism. Yeah, nah. The reason given was that, quote, we have these powers, for example, in the case of sometimes people just shut down, so we have to force them to move or get out of the car. Unquote. So I made him aware of an incident where my son was being harassed by police with their metal detector in town. He has level 2 autism and a learning disability. Of course, he shut down and they were trying to force him to empty his pockets. He had some Hot Wheels cars to finish off a collection that he'd been putting together, that he had purchased. I had to intervene and it almost got out of hand. But they thought it was kind of funny. Kids cops, kids. They were like, I don't realise I was about to get physical. There was only one boy cop, and he wasn't big, and 2 Sheilas. What would they have done? Fuck all. It didn't get to that, thank God. Now, the advice offered for that situation by the officer I was conversing with yesterday was that I have the right to make a complaint after the fact. I kept it civil and explained, this is why a conversation needs to be had. A complaint doesn't help after the damage is done. What happens in the event that happens to someone without someone like me around? To smart ass kids who think they're just. To what an older female cop once said to me, yeah, the problem with a lot of male cops. Now I'm going to stick up for the female cop here. The problem with a lot of male cops nowadays, we're talking over the last 15, 20 years, since police have degraded into the narcissism that we see today, because it's just grandiose narcissism disguised as stoicism. Alpha Gronks. She said the problem is with them, and almost all young cops, is they wear their badge on their dick. Oh, fuck, I laughed. I could go along with that. Anyway, as I said to him, what happens in the event that happens to someone without someone like me around? The response was just to double down on that bad advice. So at that point, I left the conversation with a handshake. 1939 Germany, 2.0, here we come. I think we're there. We're there. We're basically there. We just haven't gone into our wartime economy yet. That's knocking on the door, isn't it? That's knocking on the door. Crikey. Yeah, I'm just about to go back to sleep, I think. But before I do, this came up and it's perfect to fit to it. it just happened to be that I was about to switch it off and yeah. Where are we? In view. Pretty much. Give it a bit of volume so you can hear. That much, perhaps.
In these places, in these cultures, in that so-called civilization, the truth of the matter is that you have no serious, coherent, practical morality. Not at all. No applied moral framework that gets implemented, that's consistent, and that has any sort of real-world weight to it in terms of behavior, in terms of regulating behavior. Yes, you have things that you say you believe in. You have things that you say matter to you. You know, you have values that you'll espouse all day long and whatnot. But where are they? Where are those values? You really have to learn this. You're not going to get anywhere until you learn this. This is the difference between what you can call functional moral systems versus what passes for morality in the West. You see, the disconnect between what people say they believe in versus what they actually do, what their actions actually are. Because the fact of the matter is that what you do consistently, what you do systematically, what you do at scale, in fact, that is what you believe in. Not what you tell yourself you believe in. You know, not the abstract ideals that you proclaim, but what you actually do, what your actions are. Please understand me. You relegate morality to abstraction, and you relegate morality to unpracticable platitudes, you know, homilies, quotable sayings that signal virtue, yes, but which are, in fact, if you look at it, completely open to individual interpretation, which renders them completely meaningless. Completely meaningless, at least in terms of being behavioral regulators or behavioral modifiers, because there's no standard of implementation. It's completely disconnected from practical application. Well, this is useless. This is lip service. And when it's just lip service, then you can claim to believe any sort of standard of morality that you like, any standard of virtue that you like, because you have no intention whatsoever of ever living up to it. You can even make a standard that no one can possibly live up to. Do you see what I mean? It's like little kids talking about, I have 100 toys. No, I have 1,000,000 toys. Well, I have gazillion toys. I have infinity toys. Because you can say whatever you want about what you believe. You can say it. It's very cheap to say it because you never have to act on it. And because everyone understands that the morals are just lip service, that it's just something that you proclaim, that you never perform and never really expected to perform.
He's about to say something profound that is going to make you realise you've all been duped.
Then you also can never be called out for it. Like just take Christianity, for example, right?
Yeah.
Turn the other cheek. Beautiful sentiment, right? Except nobody does it. No Christian nation ever practiced pacifism, ever. No Christian individual actually turns the other cheek, certainly not if their family is threatened or even if they're threatened. And I'm not even saying that they should. Of course not. Everyone understands why they don't practice that particular platitude. They know why they don't do it, because it would be incredibly self-destructive. It would be impractical. It would lead to your own annihilation if you turn the other cheek as a practical principle. Everyone knows this. It's suicidal. So why maintain it as a moral ideal? Why even still talk about it like you believe it when no one believes it? No one believes it and no one practices it. Or look at child protection in the West. They tell you, and I mean they will tell you with absolute conviction.
Yeah, listen. Listen to what he says carefully.
That they don't tolerate the sexualization of children. Zero tolerance. It's unspeakable. Right? Except child marriage is still legal in most U.S. states. You've got your little child...
Did you hear that? Let's listen to that again.
Sexualization of children. Zero tolerance. It's unspeakable. Right? Except child marriage is still legal in most U.S. states.
This is Islam. Let that sink in for a minute, dumbasses.
You've got your little child beauty pageants with little girls in swimsuits. That's normal entertainment for you. Your fashion industry uses prepubescent models in adult contexts. And like I said before, the average age of first exposure to pornography is just 11 years old. Jeffrey Epstein operated for decades with apparent institutional protection. You've got your
See why I get so fucking frustrated with this? I know, fucking my face is fucking burning. A wicked sunburn yesterday. On my face. I've got a bit of heat stroke, I reckon. I feel the greatest. This is Islam. So what the fuck do you think those people are running around and everyone's going, oh, Muslims this, Muslims that? That's a Muslim. Stop believing this fucking shit about what you've been told on Sky News and by Tommy fucking Robinson, the fuckwit, Scott Challen, Mikado Bosey. They work for Shill Corp. It's a thing, it's actually a company called Shill Corp. They're shills.
little child beauty pageants with little girls in swimsuits. That's normal entertainment for you. Your fashion industry uses prepubescent models in adult contexts. Like I said before, the average age of first exposure to pornography is just 11 years old. Jeffrey Epstein operated for decades with apparent institutional protection in your society. You adultify children and you infantilize adults. That's what you do. You don't practice what you preach and you don't preach what you practice. Like I've said many times. And I'm telling you, what you practice on a societal level is actually what you believe in, whether you like to admit it or not. No matter what you tell yourselves and no matter what you tell us, we see what you do. And that's how we know you. That's how we know you. What do people do consistently? They become known for. So in fact, we're looking at a society that proclaims absolute moral standards while systematically violating them. You understand me? This isn't an occasional failure we're talking about. This is normalized practice with institutional backing and with popular participation, social approval, everything. We're not talking about a stumble here and there. We're talking about, like I say, systematic, society-wide, persistently acting in contradiction to what you say you believe in. And we could literally go point by point, declared moral value by declared moral value. And you'll see nothing but the opposite ever being practiced, ever being implemented across the whole society. Oh, what you proclaim is lofty. It's so lofty, in fact, that you already immunize yourself from blame for not being able to reach it. Because if it's unreachable in the first place, why bother trying? Right? Like I said, you can go point by point. All men are created equal. Have you ever believed that in practice? Liberty and justice for all? Meanwhile, you've got mass incarceration in your country with obviously very drastically unequal legal outcomes by race and by class. You say you have an absolute belief in freedom of speech. Meanwhile, public speech is exclusively contained now on privately owned platforms. And those privately owned platforms do not guarantee free speech. You believe in the right to privacy. Meanwhile, you've got mass surveillance, you've got data harvesting, you've got government monitoring and so on. Your lofty values like government by the people, for the people, of the people, and so forth. Meanwhile, in real life, you have total oligarchic control in your country. Unlimited campaign funding, lobbying, total corporate capture of policy, total corporate capture of the state. You say that civilian casualties are never acceptable, but you'll sure keep sending the arms, you'll sure keep sending the funding anyway, and you have no problem whatsoever with carpet bombing whole cities. You're proud of it, you brag about it. You say you stand for human rights everywhere. Meanwhile, you starve, you sanction, you bomb, you mass murder, you kidnap people off the street, even your own streets, to send them back to black sites for torture, send them to Guantanamo, which is still operating, by the way. And you say torture is absolutely prohibited. Since when? Since when? Meanwhile, you literally pioneered torture techniques. You trained others in torture techniques, other security forces, and you've done it for decades. You say, give us your tired, your poor, your starving masses who yearn to breathe free. Well, you made them tired. You made them poor. You starved them. And they yearn to be free from the suffering that you imposed upon them in their countries. And then you sick ice on them when they come to you. I mean, like I said, we could literally go on, point by point. Equal opportunity for all? Sure. Rule of law? Sure. Innocent until proven guilty? Family values? Family values is a good one. Meanwhile, your whole economic model requires both parents to work. You have minimal parental leave. You have unaffordable child care, unaffordable health care. You know, people are divorcing in your country more than they marry. You've got children divorcing their parents in your family values country. Old people thrown into nursing homes or thrown out into the street. Like I said, this is where you came from. This is your theological roots. Turn the other cheek, right? Never applied by a Christian nation in history. Not even applied individually. Love your enemies. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the meek. Meanwhile, what you practice in the real world, it looks like you believe that the blessed are the predators who get hold of the poor and they get hold of the meek. You know, you've got your prosperity gospel. You worship money. You have utter contempt for the poor, utter contempt for poverty. In your religion, you say, judge not, lest ye be judged. Meanwhile, the only time in real life that you ever even bring up morality is to judge others, to criticize others, to operate your whole cancel culture. It seems like when you heard in your Bible, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven, you just decided to abandon the idea of ever getting into heaven altogether. You just decided to focus all of your efforts on getting rich in this world and have your heaven right here, right now. Like, if I can't be rich and get into heaven, then let me just be rich then. This is how you do. This is your real morality. You see, there's the difference between what you proclaim and what you do. Like, you talk about environmentalism, saving the planet and whatnot. Meanwhile, you've got the highest per capita emissions in the world, the highest consumption in the world, and the most corporate exemptions from any sort of environmental regulations or responsibility. You know? What you say and what you practice. You talk about sustainability. Well, you have the worst throwaway disposable culture on Earth, simultaneously destroying whole ecosystems across the planet just for your disposable whims, just so you can have something for a few minutes and throw it away. Like I said, it doesn't matter which so-called values we're talking about, which values that you talk about. If we talk about any of the values that you talk about, every single one of them is systematically violated at scale, as official policy, as lived culture with popular participation. Across all of these proclaimed absolute moral values, moral principles, you literally contradict them systematically for your own benefit. But you'll uphold them rhetorically so that you can claim moral authority. Please reflect on this. Understand this. You must understand this. You have to recognize how damaging this is, truly damaging, how destructive it is, when you actually allow such a constant and such a massive disconnection between what you claim to believe in and what you actually do and what you actually act upon. Wallahi, it is catastrophically destructive to operate as if moral values are just words that you say and not behaviors that you comply with. It's catastrophic. And the loftier and the more high-sounding those values are, the more unrealistic and the more absolute they are, the more beautifully abstract they are. I'm telling you, the worse your behavior is actually going to be.
Oh, fuck. I wish you saw that could Elon Musk. Why would you clap to watch them fucking pieces of shit? I'm gonna try and get back to sleep. This will be uploaded by the time I wake up in a few hours. 3 o'clock. Yeah, I woke up at 1:30. Why? Because my head just does what it does. That's not, by the way, that's not a cop living, that's not someone living rent free in my head. That's my head saying, look, you've just pieced all this together into a format that goes into words and it needs to be said. And if you don't get it out now, by the morning, it'll be jumbled up. Or you'll forget it, or whatever. So get up, write it, read it, wait 10 minutes, read it again. From the perspective of someone who's reading it for the first time. And then put it out there. Because it's got to be said. That's how my brain works. Right, I'll get pattern brain. It's something chronic. I get woken up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning with something that I was thinking about yesterday afternoon. Oh God, I got... Right, I'm a very clean and tidy person as a rule. Lately it's just been... I'm going to tidy up today. I promise. Yeah, I think I can get back to sleep now. See how that works?